Canada is facing a crisis that most people have no idea about, and what I'm about to show you could change the way you think about safety in this country. Hundreds. Yes, hundreds of foreign nationals with criminal convictions are going missing, and the system that's supposed to track them is failing. What if I told you some of them could be living next door to you, walking free, and the authorities don't even know where they are? This isn't just news. It's a reality that could impact your family, your neighborhood, and your peace of mind. In the next video, you're going to hear straight from experts who deal with these cases every day: police, border security, and immigration officials. They will reveal shocking truths about how many criminals are slipping through the system, why it's happening, and what this means for people living in Canada. If you ignore this, you could be missing out on information that might change how you think about safety and law enforcement in your community. Stay until the end, because the numbers and stories they share are absolutely mind-blowing.
How Canada reached the point where so many convicted foreign nationals can simply disappear before deportation. Anything more to add on that?
Right now, you're about to see a conversation that exposes a serious problem in Canada's immigration and removal system. Police and experts are revealing that hundreds, possibly thousands of foreign nationals with criminal records are either missing or going untracked. In coming conversation, you'll hear experts discuss why the current removal system is not working as it should. They will break down what happens when someone with a criminal background is discovered in Canada, and why the system sometimes fails to remove them promptly. This is more than just statistics. This directly affects your safety, your neighborhoods, and how you think about law enforcement and immigration enforcement in the country. If you think Canada is fully secure and that criminals are always tracked, you're about to be shocked. Pay close attention, because what they reveal in this discussion could change your understanding of how many people with criminal records are still living freely in Canada.
Obviously, we have hundreds and thousands, we're finding out, of foreign nationals with criminal convictions missing in Canada. So it sounds like you don't believe the current removal system is working and that we need an overhaul of that system, or at least more support.
I think every system needs modernization and continuous improvement. So is it not working? I wouldn't say that. I would say it is working, but it's working to its own capacity at the moment.
How many convicted criminals are crossing into Canada without anyone knowing right under our noses? And could some of them be interacting with our communities without detection? This question comes up because what you're about to hear reveals just how little the public knows about border security and police encounters with foreign nationals with criminal records. In this segment, experts share their first-hand experiences with foreign nationals who have criminal records and are encountered by police or border officials. You'll learn how often these cases happen, who deals with them most regularly, and why many of these individuals slip through the cracks. This information impacts not just policy, but your personal safety and how secure your neighborhood really is. What most Canadians are never told about this system. Most Canadians don't know that frontline police almost never encounter these cases. The real action happens at borders, where the public has zero visibility into what's coming in and who is stopped. Very few people realize that finding a criminal foreign national does not automatically mean removal. The system can identify them and still let them move through Canada. Canadians are never told how many of these encounters are kept out of public reports, which creates a false belief that this problem is rare or controlled.
How often do RCMP officers, would you say in general, encounter foreign nationals with criminal records on a regular basis?
My policing experience was as a frontline police officer in Lower Mainland of British Columbia. I encountered two just during routine traffic stops. However, when I speak to my colleagues who are working border enforcement or border security, they encounter them on a more regular basis, because that's where you're dealing with illegal migrants who are crossing into the country.
What really happens after a criminal foreign national is caught, and who takes over once the police step away? This question comes up because most Canadians assume that once someone is caught by police, the process is clear, controlled, and final. But what you're about to hear exposes a handoff that many people don't understand, and that confusion creates gaps where people can disappear. In Next, you'll hear what happens the moment a criminal foreign national is encountered who takes them into custody, who is responsible next, and where the system quietly shifts control. This is a critical moment that directly impacts whether someone is removed or vanishes into Canada. What most Canadians are never told about this system. Most people don't know that police responsibility often ends quickly, and the entire case is handed over to another agency, creating a gap where accountability can get lost. Canadians are rarely told that being taken into custody does not mean the process is finished. It often means the most uncertain part is just beginning. Very few realize that multiple agencies handling the same individual can slow action, confuse oversight, and increase the risk of someone slipping through the system. What is almost never explained is that every transfer of responsibility is a critical moment, and if it fails, the consequences don't stay on paper. They show up in real communities.
Or we're dealing with human traffickers who are trying to profit from those who are trying to come into the country.
So what happens next once they're encountered? Are they taken into custody? Are they released? What's the next process?
From our side of the house, taken into custody with us and transferred to CBSA for their processing.
Okay.
Once a criminal foreign national is handed over who is actually responsible for making sure they don't just disappear again? This question comes up because most Canadians believe there is a clear final step: detention until removal. But what you're about to hear suggests that even after multiple agencies are involved, no one can confidently say what happens next. That uncertainty is where the system starts to brio. In Next, you'll hear a moment that quietly exposes a major gap in Canada's enforcement process. When questions are asked about detention, release, and preventing people from vanishing again, the answers become vague. This is where real accountability should exist, and where many Canadians will realize it doesn't. What most Canadians are never told about this system. Canadians are rarely told that once a case is handed to CBSA, even police officials may not know what happens next, leaving the public completely in the dark. Most people don't realize there is no guarantee that individuals are detained until removal, even when there is a risk they could flee or reoffend. Very few Canadians understand that when a system relies on multiple agencies without clear public oversight, responsibility can be deflected rather than owned. What is almost never discussed is that every time someone is released without full monitoring, the risk doesn't disappear. It simply moves back into the community.
Are you aware what happens to them after that point, or is that something I need to ask CBSA?
You should probably speak through to CBSA. They would be the subject matter experts on that.
Okay. It seems to me they ought to be detained until they are removed to prevent them from vanishing again. What is happening? You did mention they flee, resist arrest, and then reoffend. Were you referring to being released and reoffending?
Why would someone who is in Canada illegally with a criminal record ever be released back into the public instead of being removed? This question comes up because most Canadians assume common sense prevails when public safety is at risk. But what you're about to hear directly challenges that assumption. If you care about community safety, this question is not optional, it's essential. In Next part, you'll hear a confirmation that many people will find shocking. It reveals that some individuals who are in Canada illegally and have criminal history are not always removed, they are released. This is a moment that forces viewers to ask whether the system is prioritizing procedure over public safety. What most Canadians are never told about this system. Most Canadians don't realize that being in Canada illegally with a criminal record does not automatically mean detention until removal. Release is still a possibility. Very few people are told that some of these individuals are released on their own recognizance, meaning they are trusted to comply despite past offenses or risks. Canadians are rarely informed that the risk of reoffending is known, acknowledged, and still accepted within the current process. What is almost never said out loud is that each release is a calculated risk, one that is borne not by policymakers, but by the public living in these communities.
Should someone be in Canada illegally with a criminal record or exposure to criminal history, should they be released on their own recognizance, awaiting an appearance, they may reoffend, yes.
So they are being released then after they're taken into custody rather than being removed?
It's my understanding, yes. Not all, but some are being released, yep.
If authorities have addresses, why do so many convicted foreign nationals still manage to disappear before deportation? This question comes up because Canadians are told that there are safeguards in place, addresses, conditions, and follow-ups. But if people are still vanishing, then something fundamental is not working. Understanding this question means understanding how a system can look controlled on paper and fail in real life. In next part, you'll hear a moment of honest uncertainty that speaks volumes. Even when addresses are provided and release conditions exist, no one can confidently say where people go after release. This segment reveals how easy it can be for someone to disappear and why that should concern every Canadian. What most Canadians are never told about this system. Canadians are led to believe that having an address means oversight, but in reality, there is often no way to verify where someone actually goes after release. Very few people realize that once someone walks away from their reported address, tracking them again can be extremely difficult or impossible. Most Canadians are never told that the system relies heavily on compliance rather than enforcement, even when dealing with individuals who already have a history of non-compliance. What is almost never admitted is that when someone disappears before deportation, the system often has no clear answer for how or why it happened.
Perhaps based on the public safety minister's testimony, those are the addresses he possibly is referring to. When we release them, we have addresses, but who knows where they go after that. We do not know if we release them, right? Do you have any more insight on how Canada reached the point where so many convicted foreign nationals can simply disappear before deportation? Anything more to add on that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
How much risk are Canadians really living with, and does anyone actually know how dangerous these missing individuals could be? This question comes up because Canadians are constantly asked to trust that the system is keeping them safe. But when people with unknown backgrounds and no current location are involved, that trust is put to the test. Understanding this question means understanding the real gap between assumptions and reality. In next part, you'll hear a careful but telling response that reveals a major problem. No one can confidently assess the danger when they don't know who these individuals are or where they are. This segment forces viewers to confront an uncomfortable truth about risk vetting and public safety in Canada. What most Canadians are never told about this system. Most Canadians don't realize that when individuals are missing, authorities cannot even measure the level of danger they pose to the public. Very few people are told that incomplete vetting means unknown backgrounds, making it impossible to rule out serious risks. Canadians are rarely informed that a lack of case-specific information prevents officials from giving clear assurances about public safety. What is almost never said is that uncertainty itself is a risk. When the system doesn't know who is out there, communities are left to live with the consequences.
How much danger do these missing individuals pose to the general public, would you say?
Well, without knowing who we're talking about or case specific, I can't really comment on their propensity for danger. But obviously, we do have a challenge with those who are in the country illegally that have not been properly vetted.
Can anyone in authority actually promise Canadians that these missing or released individuals will not reoffend? This question comes up because Canadians are led to believe that release comes with safety guarantees. But if no one can confidently make that promise, then the entire foundation of public safety assurances starts to fall apart. This is a question every Canadian deserves a straight answer to. In this final part, you'll hear the most honest answer of the entire discussion. There is no spin, no reassurance, and no guarantee. What you're about to listen to confirms what many people suspect but are rarely told out loud, that once someone is released, there is no certainty about what happens next. What most Canadians are never told about this system. Most Canadians don't realize that authorities cannot guarantee that missing or released individuals will not reoffend. Very few people are told that release on own recognizance comes with known risks that are accepted by the system. Canadians are rarely informed that even officials acknowledge they cannot track or predict future behavior once someone is released. What is almost never said is that this uncertainty is not hypothetical. It has real consequences for public safety and trust in the system.
Can the RCMP confidently tell Canadians that the missing individuals will not reoffend? You cannot. You've already answered that question.
I can't tell you that any missing individual or anyone who's been released on their own recognizance will not reoffend.
What you just heard was not opinion. It was testimony. Step by step, this discussion exposed how criminal foreign nationals can enter, be released, disappear, and in some cases reoffend with no guarantees and no clear answers. This is not about fear. It's about awareness. When systems operate without transparency, it's ordinary Canadians who carry the risk. These are questions that affect public safety, trust in institutions, and the future of immigration and enforcement in Canada. If you care about Canada's future, if you believe people deserve honest answers, and if you want breakdowns that go beyond headlines, make sure you stay connected. Subscribe to Canada Insight Network for more in-depth breakdowns, Canada current affairs, and the latest updates on immigration and permanent residency. This is information every Canadian deserves to hear.